So, shall we begin? The time has come for yet another Sherlock Holmes logic and reasoning spectacular. Okay, topic 1, Mystery Man's Aim. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocketeer, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. As revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to the shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. The piece of paper in your hand is a staff wanted advertisement from this very shop. Yet even the most unobservant would soon realize that a man of your appearance has no need of such employ. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. Ich weiß nicht, ob das was mit dem Stock hier zu tun hat. Da steht A.G. drauf. The cane which you unwittingly clutch to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What other rod? I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, missing ferrule. Fast richtig. The end of any walking cane would be terminated with a metal ferrule to protect the wooden tip. And yet detailed analysis shows the wooden tip of this stick to be utterly bare. Mein Gott, Sherlock, du hattest es genau vor deiner Nase. Yeah. Therefore, there is only one conclusion. The rod that you hold in your hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? Well, And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. From the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. What walking cane demands such a stout handle, mused I. But of course, as I said, this is no walking cane. No, that rod is the broken handle of a shovel. Oh my god. Are you insane? And now, having determined this undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motive for coming here was to take employment at this establishment in order to excavate the ground beneath the premises. What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wickedly calculated crime. Wow. Okay, topic 2, great crime. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath this pawnbrokery with a broken shovel. What on earth do you propose I could expect to find there? Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose. Stay for such a fanciful theory. What possible reason could I have to do as you say? Oh, but there is ample reason. As you're only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. And your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. Let us consider what would motivate a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath its floor. The answer is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. This letter gives notice of public works to be carried out in a local area. And according to the enclosed plan of the upcoming sewerage works. Beneath the shop runs a sewer that adjoins another one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the road. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? By excavating the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway that flows in very close proximity to the Great Wall of the financial institution opposite. What are you? In summary, sir, you devised a master plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Master plan? Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. With what plunder did the thief hope to make of room the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I happen to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us all we need to know. A postcard of the Great Exhibition. I'm afraid you've quite lost me. Currently in the final stages of preparation, the Great Exhibition, glaube ich, oder? Passt doch. Will soon be underway, and the government has provided extra funds to complete its centerpiece, the Crystal Tower. Funds that currently sit in the vault of the bank on the other side of this road. Pardon? Yes, the considerable crime you have been contemplating is the theft of that which sits in the vault of that bank, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. Exhibition. Ich glaube, Exhibition ist schon nah dran, wie man es ausspricht. Of course, that is top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please. Ich bin immer wieder begeistert, wie Sherlock so unfassbar daneben liegen kann. Those concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this pawnbroking puzzle. Mr. Holmes. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, an impressively upbeat deduction for a detective wracked with loneliness, would you not agree? Was it true what you said about the bank over the road and what it has in its vault? Indeed, though few know of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets. Gregson told me in the strictest confidence. But you just announced it to everyone here, rather loudly in fact. And if it's such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it? There can be but one explanation for that. Clearly, it is because the man is a criminal. But what if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he's a criminal, as you said, then buying a brand new shovel is sure to be the first thing he does now that you have revealed the secret. Or if he doesn't, maybe Mr. Windybag will. He already has plenty of shovels here after all. Oh my life, I assure you I'm not so unscrupulous. Well, hopefully this has taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost of care. One can never be sure that someone privy to secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it's out. Perhaps I will think twice before confiding in you next time, Mr. Holmes. An excellent idea, Mr. Naruhodo, an excellent idea. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, you know what to do, I'm sure. Yes, let's listen to the great deduction again and see if we can massage it into shape. Very well then, let us start once more from the beginning. Of Sherlock Holmes' magnificent logic and reasoning spectacular. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocketeer, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. As revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the stuff recruitment flyer. Okay, das ist falsch. Aber ich gehe stark davon aus, dass der Flyer eine Rolle spielt. So by Mr. Schaum's reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so he could dig down through the floor. Yes, in an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault of the bank across the road. But he wouldn't get very far with a broken shovel, would he? No, I think it's fair to say his motive lies elsewhere. The question is where? What did bring Mr. Benedict here at this particular point in time? Oh, shit. Okay, war nicht richtig. Wahrscheinlich, weil ich es erst... Ich vergesse immer, du musst dir manchmal die Sachen vorher angucken. Auch wenn das jetzt offensichtlich ist, okay, es muss was mit der Rückseite zu tun haben, dann müssen wir trotzdem erst rausfinden, was auf der Rückseite eigentlich steht. Okay. Das ist mein Fehler. Wir werden das zuerst einmal unter die Lupe nehmen. Aber es war mir schon klar, dass die Rückseite die richtige Antwort dann sein muss. Deswegen, ich skippe das hier einmal kurz durch. So, also. Dann gehen wir das hier einmal schneller durch und dann suchen wir das. Es ist immer noch schade, dass ich Texte schneller erscheinen lassen kann. So, jetzt gucken wir uns das einmal an hier. Look at all the scribbled notes on the back of the flyer here. I don't believe it. What is it? Listen to what it says. Name, Gina Lestrade, height 5'2", Greek cap, scruffy waistcoat, grubby white shirt, blue satchel. It's a detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness, there's even a sketch of her head and all. Also, if he showed it to her, she would fire that smoke grenade launcher in his face for sure. And look, the details of the shop have been written down here too. Winnie Bank's Pawnbrokery, Baker Street, redemption deadline 5th April, which is today's date. Why would Mr. Benedict have all that information scrawled on the back of that piece of paper? Info about Miss Lestrade. Genau, und jetzt können wir das dann vorzeigen. Yes, what brought you to the shop in the first place is the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch on the reserve of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket, Miss Lestrade, and to Mr. Windybank's pawnbrokery here. You originally told us that you had merely given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a tiny veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to Windybank's pawnbrokery, and today the redemption deadline of that overcoat. So you waited outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. And you have gone to some lengths to hide the reason for your pursuit of Miss Lestrade. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane which you unwittingly clutch to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, nicht das. It's the metal cap commonly found on the end of a cane, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, the bit that makes a nice clacking sound on the pavement? Yes, exactly, and Mr. Sholmes is right. It appears to be missing on this cane, but it doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't, though the gentleman certainly did recoil when Mr. Sholmes identified the cane as suspicious. In other words, there's some secret about the cane that Mr. Benedict would rather we don't know. Und zwar die Initialen. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the initialing. Ich weiß gar nicht, ob ich das richtig ausgesprochen habe. Initialien auf jeden Fall. A most astute observation, wouldn't you say, Mr. Egert Benedict? Egert Benedict? Ich weiß nicht, wie man den ersten Namen ausspricht. We're led to believe there that your initials are E.B. Yet in a most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a cane bearing the initials A.G. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? No, you're wrong. This cane isn't... You said before that you had that cane for years. So don't try to tell us that you just borrowed it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, though you hold yourself to be a gentleman, you have withheld your true name. Your recall, sir, is something wrong. And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the exact conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rot you bear? Here. Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle which you evidently would like to conceal is the key to understanding this riddle, you see? Let's consider the bare bones of what's happened here. Mr. Lestrade redeemed that fine-looking overcoat, and now a mysterious man has appeared, introducing himself with a fake name, and claiming that the overcoat belongs to him. But we know that he actually identified Lestrade from a written description, which suggests that everything else he's told us is untrue. What we need to do here is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. No. The split seam, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see? Yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Having forced it over your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were a ruse from the outset. When you so boldly lied about your name and so boldly waylaid this pickpocket. This catalogue of untruths has all been for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from Mr. Windybank. But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined has been considerably curtailed. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, designed a wreath to filch some tawdry article of pawnage. Have you forgotten that I redeemed the article in the proper manner using the watchword? Had I not been the one to deposit it in the first place? How could I possibly have known the relevant details? Oh, but the watchword can be discovered. As you were only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. Ah, and your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. Let us consider how one might come to learn a secret watchword relating to the pawned property of another. The method is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inevitably drawn. The direction of the deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think. Yes, no more talk of tunneling into the sewers, which is a pity because it all sounded rather exciting. Anyway, I can't deny that this mysterious gentleman did know the watchword. Yes, sir. If you didn't know that word, Mr. Windybank would never allow you to redeem the article. Or looking at it another way. If you did know the word, Mr. Windybank would allow you to redeem the article whether it was yours or not. But the question is, this gentleman have found the watchword out somehow. Yeah. Look at this, Miss Susato. It appears to be a memo that Mr. Windybank has scribbled to himself. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Mr. Windybank must make a note of the watchwords his customers give him right before their eyes. And in alarmingly clear script as well. Oh dear, I don't know where to look. Oh, so what other secrets I might see? The method is revealed by the notelet on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whenever a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on a notelet he has to hand. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question. I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker. But his diligence clearly has its disadvantages. What are you talking about? It is increasingly apparent that you were present in the shop before your accusations against Miss Lestrade. In all likelihood, you followed her inside and then observed her talking to Mr. Windybank. When the diligent broker made a note of the watchword, as is his common practice, you observed him writing the word professor on the notelet besides the ledger. And that, sir, was the master plan you devised to steal the pawned article from the young Miss Lestrade. Ich kann heute echt nicht lesen, es tut mir furchtbar leid. Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. Why would you go to such lengths to redeem that particular article from this pawnbroker? Are you quite serious? For an ill-fitting overcoat, hardly seems to justify the effort, much less a worthless music box disc. But naturally, you had very good reason to make them yours, didn't you, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see this picture postcard? Okay, das ist falsch. The articles we are talking about are the overcoat and the music box disc that was in one of the pockets. Which, according to Mr. Windybank, isn't even worth a penny. And yet this man went to such lengths to steal them. Why? I wonder if perhaps we already have the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruhodo. Would we really? I would better have a closer look through all the evidence we've collected so far. Ja, die Musicbox. Das war's. Okay, ich muss mir die Musicbox einmal genauer angucken. Ja, wenn Naruhodo einmal falsch liegt, dann ist das immer wieder der gleiche Satz. Gut, dann müssen wir uns einmal die Musicbox genauer anschauen. Certainly doesn't want either for their monetary value though. Still, they must be of value somehow, to someone. This is the last piece of this puzzle. I would better have another look through the evidence and see if there are any clues hiding. Okay, dann gucken wir uns einmal die Music Box an. Look at all the little bumps on the disc. They are so tiny. Yes, the protrusions are called pins, and they block the teeth of the comb to make notes. And just on the edge, there's a small amount of blood. Yes, the blood of the mysterious Mr. Edgar Benedict. When Miss Lestrade tried to grab the disc from him, the pin scratched his fingers, it seems. Like when you're grating some daikon radish and accidentally catch your finger. Ouch, just thinking about it hurts and puts me off eating radish. Oh, there's a little scrap of paper stuck onto the reverse side of the disc, look. And a scribbled word or two, it looks like somebody's name. Or McGilded. McGilded? It couldn't be. But it is, Mr. Naruhodo. A name I shall never forget for as long as I live. But why? Why is his name on this? Ah, also war der Mantel hat Mr. McGilded gehört. Und da ja Mr. McGilded, ja, Gina so ein bisschen unter die Fittiche genommen hat, hat das ja so ein bisschen ausgesehen bei dem Fall, wird sie jetzt eben diesen Mantel dann bekommen haben. So als Erbe? Irgendwie? Also, könnte ich mir jetzt zumindest so vorstellen. You see, this music box disc tells us all we need to know. What's that on the back? It reads for McGilded. Mr. Magnus McGilded, the unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, so his loan mongering demonstrated a distinct lack of scruples. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate? Mr. McGilded was a man of unusual small stature and fact. He was precisely the right size for that overcoat that you've squeezed yourself into. Your true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Edgar Benedict, but the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to this pawnbrokery today was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. Well, well, Mr. Magnus McGilded. Not a name I expected to hear in these circumstances. Sir Sholmes, I'm afraid there's something very troubling on my mind. Pray tell, Miss Susato. Well, according to what Mr. Windybank told us earlier, today was the final day on which the code could have been redeemed, was it not? Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Today would be precisely 2 months since it was first deposited. Deposited, yeah. Well, today is the 15th April, so 2 months ago today would have been 15th February, sir. That's right. It's all carefully recorded in my ledger. Deposited at 10:30 p.m., I see. What? But that suggests... Yes, 15th February is precisely the day on which the omnibus murder took place. And half past 10 in the evening is precisely the time at which the terrible events were unfolding. Suggestive is not the word. It would seem the matter is entirely beyond coincidence. You are, of course, at liberty to make whatever outlandish deductions you choose. However, I must insist you hand over the music box disc now. It would be a terrible shame for you to return to your native land in a box. What do I do? Kann ich mit meinem Leben spielen und sagen, nee? There are some things a man must protect at all costs. This may well be one of those things. Then again, it may not. Mr. Winniebank, this is my shop. I can't allow any harm to come to my customers. If that were to happen, I should have to take my own life. Mr. Winniebank, no. Alright, that's enough. Inspector Gregson. Inspector. That's right, Sunshine. The alarm was raised on one of our dedicated emergency lines. So we got here as fast as we could. Now, what's all this about, huh? Oh, praise be. You're here at last. I was moments away from forfeiting my own life in my very own establishment. It would seem you have the upper hand. Right. You lot have got some explaining to do. I don't appreciate being bothered with some petty argy-bargy. Petty? Mr. Winniebank very nearly met with his end. Yeah, by his own gun as far as I can tell. Oh dear. And the whole of Britain could meet with its end if I don't get to the bottom of the case I'm supposed to be working on. What? What on earth is the case, Inspector? Spare no detail, Gregson. I might have said a little too much. No matter. It's nothing to do with you lot. Anyway, sir, you're gonna have to come with me down to the station. But of course, Inspector. He's getting away. Get after him, lads. Whistle the beat officer, too. There's been a spate of thefts at pawn shops around here recently, so we've fitted emergency buttons underneath the counters for brokers to let us know when there's trouble. Oh, Inspector, I was very worried there for a while, very worried indeed. Now then, Mr. Permanently in Mourning. Oh, yes? I will be taking that, whatever it is, of McGilded's down to the yard. Thank you very much. So hand it over. Yes, of course. No, don't give it to him. It's mine. That is mine. I'm sorry, miss, but anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. As evidence? If the police demand something as evidence, my dear fellow, we have no choice but to... capitulate? It's all yours, Inspector. Zu kapitulieren? And so, we handed Mr. McGilded's disc over to Inspector Gregson, and were summarily turfed out of the shop and onto the street. To be continued. Okay. Also ich muss ja sagen, ich bin sehr, sehr froh, dass wir doch nochmal von Mr. McGilded hören. Weil ich das schon sehr schade gefunden hätte, sonst wenn der Fall einfach ja so geendet hätte, dass man eben diese brennende Kutsche sieht und dann wird dieser Fall nie wieder behandelt oder bearbeitet. Und deswegen finde ich es jetzt schon sehr gut, dass anscheinend dieser Fall jetzt mit Mr. McGilded zu tun hat und dann vielleicht auch mit Verbrechen zu tun hat, was Mr. McGilded hier widerfahren ist. Und ich bin sehr gespannt, wie Gina jetzt da wirklich mit drinnen hängt. Also war sie jetzt so... Also, Was ich mich frage, ist ja, ob sie jetzt eine Erbin von Mr. McGillet ist. Und der andere Dude möchte sich das einfach so unter Nagel reißen. Ja, also er möchte irgendwie sich so das Erbe erschleichen oder so. Aber das ist jetzt nur so eine Vermutung, weil ja der Fall ja mit dem Hound of the Baskervilles zu tun hat. Und das war ja so eine ähnliche Story, dass jemand sich was erschleichen wollte, was ihm eigentlich gar nicht rechtmäßig zugestanden hat. Und dann hat er ja diesen Höllenhund erschaffen, sozusagen, um den Leuten Furcht und Schrecken zu lehren. Jetzt habe ich doch Geschichte von Basketball gespoilert. Es tut mir leid. Ich glaube, ich habe am Anfang gesagt, ich wollte nicht zu sehr drüber reden, um nicht. Doch getan. Es tut mir furchtbar leid. Ich bin auch momentan sehr, sehr müde, weil ich nicht so viel Zeit habe, aufzunehmen momentan. Deshalb kann es auch tatsächlich passieren, dass in die nächsten Tage etwas weniger Parts kommen oder gar kein Part einmal online kommt. Falls das so sein sollte, tut es mir wirklich leid. Ich versuche, wie gesagt, wenn ich aufnehmen kann, aufzunehmen und so gut es geht eben auch gut wie täglich für Parts zu sorgen. Aber wenn es mir nicht möglich ist, dann müsst ihr bitte nachsehen und verzeihen. Ich versuche wirklich, so oft es geht, so oft wie möglich aufzunehmen und eben auch Parts hochzuladen. Ja, eventuell schneide ich das jetzt noch raus, dass ich ein bisschen was erzählt habe von der Story vom Basketball. Und falls nicht, tut's mir leid. Das war jetzt eigentlich nur so eine Summary, so eine Round-Story. Ne? Also von der Geschichte von Sherlock Holmes gibt es eigentlich noch sehr, sehr viel mehr zu erzählen. Deswegen, ich sag jetzt nicht, es war halt so ein bisschen schon irgendwie zusammen. Deswegen, es tut mir nochmal leid. Ich werde jetzt hier auch den Part beenden, weil ich mich jetzt hier nur wiederhole. Ich bedanke mich herzlich fürs Zusehen, hoffe, ihr hattet Spaß und wenn ihr mögt, sehen wir uns sehr, sehr gerne im nächsten Part wieder. Bis dahin, ciao.